Okay, we are continuing our session on Christology, the deity of Christ, as seen in John's Gospel, chapter 1, verses 1 through 18. And I'm sure you already have it. So we're going to continue by way of review. Our last session, we talked about the eternality, consider his eternality in chapter 1 verse 1. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. And that word that's used for was there is the Greek word term for I am, but here it's in the imperfect tense, past action, continuous past action. He was and continuously was with God, continuously was. So it speaks of his eternality. He who never had a beginning began it all. And then there's another term, genomai, or is going to be used for the things that are created, or the things that are or created beings, and to distinguish between the Son who always was and that which came into existence. We also talked about the essence with God and was God. We also talked about his expression. Consider his expression. He is described as the Word, the ability to communicate, which speaks of his relational nature, and also his authority to create, echoing Genesis, where God created by his word. His word carries authority that creates and brings into existence that which did not previously exist. No one has that kind of power but God. And also, we want to consider today his esteem, his exhibition, and his exclusivity. Again, consider his esteem. How does John esteem him? How does he rank him? Consider his exhibition. He shows, displays, exhibits who God is in its fullness, and then consider his exclusivity. So there is a relationship that he has to the Father that no one else has. All right, and so continue in our session. Verse 6, we see his esteem. He is compared, or contrasted rather, with two prophets, John the Baptist as well as Moses. But here is John the Baptist. Consider how John is communicating himself. John the Baptist is introduced. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. This is John the Baptist. He came as a witness to bear witness about that light, that all might believe through him. Check it out. He was not the light, but came to bear witness about that light, about the light. So John, the Apostle John, introduces John the Baptist, who is going to be the final prophet before Jesus comes on the scene, and the one who introduces Jesus and shows that when you contrast John the Baptist functions as a foil that highlights the greatness of Jesus. All right. And matter of fact, even with the word was, there was a man sent from God. Remember, I told you in last session that the word was is used 3 times in the beginning about God. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. But that word was is imperfect tense, speaking of continuously was. Here, he uses another word for was, the same word he uses for that which came into existence in creation. He's saying, I want to make a difference between the was of the Son, or the Word, who always was, and John, who came into existence, who came into being. So they are not on the same platform. Jesus cannot be seen merely as another prophet who receives the word, but he is the essence and very embodiment of that word, who goes back even beyond creation. Okay, so his esteem is greater than John. The world did not know him. He came to his own people, and his own received him not. So there is a comparison between him and John. Matter of fact, John is going to say in verse 15, He speaks of John the Baptist. John bore witness about him and cried, "This was he of whom I said, he who comes after me ranks before me, because he was before me." And appreciate John is the Baptist is the older cousin. So chronologically, he was born before Jesus as it relates to his humanity. But he's saying the one who comes after me outranks me because he was before me. What do you mean before you? So not only is he before me in terms of rank and his esteem, he's higher or greater than me. So he's not just considered another prophet, but he was also previously before me. How is that? Well, in his humanity, it wasn't his humanity. He was younger than John the Baptist. But in his eternality, he existed even before time. So when it comes to the prophets, he is esteemed as greater. And understand why I need to esteem him, because Jesus is going to be calling for us to believe on him for life. John chapter 20, verse 31. These are written that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and believing you may have life in his name. No one deserves that kind of believing and that kind of trust unless you have creator credibility. A prophet is not worthy of be trusting in terms of his life. But if you're Jesus, who's the Son, who is eternal and who created all things, and who his esteem goes beyond a prophet, you're worthy of my trust. All right. So his esteem, by the way, I also want you to consider that not only is he considered greater than John the Baptist, but he's also considered greater than Moses. Appreciate that. Considered greater than the prophet Moses. Look at verse 15 again, and we'll move down. Verse 15, John bore witness about him and cried, "This was he of whom I said, he comes before me and ranks before me, because he was before me. For from his fullness we have all received grace upon grace." Now, Moses. For the law was given through Moses. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. So not only is he compared to John the Baptist, contrasted with John the Baptist, he's also contrasted with Moses. And in both cases, he's greater. John the Baptist, he was before me. He outranks me. When it comes to Moses, the law came by Moses. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. And he's going to talk about him being the fullness of the grace and truth. Law came by Moses, and what Moses gave us was a shadow of which Jesus was the substance. Moses just pointed the finger, but Jesus was the fulfillment to which Moses was pointing. So he outranks Moses, he outranks John the Baptist. He is not to be put on the level of a prophet. He's saying the first prophet, Moses, and the last prophet before I come on the scene, John the Baptist, I was before the first prophet, and I am beyond the last prophet. So he is none other than the word himself, the Jesus who doesn't receive the word like a prophet, but he is the very essence of the word, who can create a new reality, bring in a new creation, and give me new life. So we see his esteem. We also consider his exhibition. That is, what does he show? What does he display? Come with me, verse 14. What does he show? And the word, which is God, became what? Flesh and dwelt among us. That word dwelt, and I have your Greek word there, ekinosin. This word, which means that he tented, he tabernacled with us. He's echoing now using the language that comes out of Exodus, where you have the tabernacle that was erected for the purpose of the glory of God. God wanted to reveal himself to his people, and he used the tabernacle to do it. That was the meeting place between God and man, where God revealed his glory. Matter of fact, look at it, verse 14, and dwelt among us, skeneo, echo of the tabernacle. And what happened? And we have seen his glory, That is God revealing some things about himself, his character. We know who he is. And that was the way the tabernacle functioned. And he said, and as the Old Testament tabernacle functioned, now Jesus is the fullness of that, showing us who God is, dwelling among us. So here's his exhibition. He makes him known. But also, I want you to consider verse 18, where it says, no one has ever seen God, just like we've never seen the sun, but we see the rays. But so even when Moses saw God, like, with show me your glory, in Exodus, he didn't see God in all of his fullness. He saw the backside of God. God revealed himself in a way where he could reveal enough about who he was and his character and with his glory that it would not totally destroy him. So it's kind of like seeing the sun. Have I seen it? Yes and no. No, not in its fullness, but I've seen its rays, and the rays are emanating from the very essence of what the sun is. So Jesus Christ, no one has seen God, but the only God, that is the Son, Jesus, monogenes is your word, the only Son of God, who is at the Father's side, has done what? Made him known. The word made him known there is exegesata. Exegesata. That word is where we get our word exegesis. You know, when we do exegesis in the text, we mine out of the text what's in it, bring out what's in. So he who was in the bosom of the Father, who had this exclusive relationship with the Father and has the very essence of the Father, now brings out and shows and exhibits to us the very essence of who God is in his fullness, Jesus Christ. No one can reveal God because he's not merely a prophet, he is God himself. All right. So we have that, not only his exhibition, but finally his exclusivity. His exclusivity. There is a relationship that the Father and Son enjoy that no one else enjoys. No one has ever seen God, the only God, verse 18, ha monogenes, who is at the Father's side, he's made him known. So this only God, this idea of only, you're going to see this again in chapter 3. For God so loved the world that he gave his only one of a kind, unique son. Now we are children of God. Yes, if you have accepted Christ. Matter of fact, he's going to say in 12 and 13, verse 12, look, but to all who did receive him, who believed on his name, he gave them the authority to become children of God. We become children of God. We believe and come into the family of God. We become children, meaning that there was a time when we were not in the family and we're brought into the family. No. When it comes to Jesus, the Son, monogenes means the Father said, he's my kinfolk like none other. He didn't become son. He didn't come into the family. He always has shared eternally my essence. He did not become. He always has been, always will be. So that's an exclusive relationship. Matter of fact, John, when he uses the word son in the Gospel of John, he deliberately uses another term, distinct, and uses that term only for the son. It's the word weos, and I have that in your notes. He only uses that for the Son, for God the Son. When he speaks of us being sons and children, he uses another word, tekna. And he's deliberately making that distinction to keep Jesus at this level, to understand that he outranks us and he is eternal and we're all in the family, but we ain't the same. He is the eternal God. So consider his eternality, consider his essence, consider his expression, the word. Consider his esteem. He is greater than the prophets because he doesn't really receive the word. He is the very essence of the word. Consider his exhibition, where he tabernacles among us and expresses and shows us who God is because he's the very essence of who God is. And then his exclusivity, where he is the Son like no other, the only unique kind of Son. And it's because of that that we can celebrate our redemption and our salvation, because of Jesus, who is not God, is a Jesus who cannot save. But because he is God, we can do what this passage tells us to do, instructs us to do at the end in chapter 20, verse 31. These were written that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you'll have life through his name. I can believe him to that degree because he has creator credibility. The reason why he has creator credibility is because he is no less than the only true God. Thank you for joining. See you next time.